Hello everyone, this is Mitch Latcher, and this video is intended for people new to War Thunder. A few clues about how to and how not to do certain things. War Thunder, as I recall it, was very difficult for me to learn originally, so I wanted to make a video of something that was kind of easy to figure out, and I would suggest that you do kind of what I'm going to do here. Start out with a test flight. I'm going to fly using realistic battle scenario, and the one other change that I made on the test flight was I gave myself a bomb delay fuse. Now, when I didn't, it gave me an assault fuse, and when I dove low to the target and dropped my bombs, it blew my plane up. So I gave it the least amount of delay that it can have, and I also did add the bombs on there. They are on there. Um, and the offensive weapons, you know what, you can choose after you earn them different types of bullets to use. Stealth attack don't show up. So when you fire, the only way you know you're hitting your target is when you see it sparks fly or see damage. That can be useful because it can give the other player, the defending player, the idea that nothing's happening until they're dead. But I tend to go with omnipurpose bullets whenever I'm flying, and you can choose some of these other things for your test flight. Now, the other thing I do, and I'll show it to you in a different way, you can reach it from the menu that's usually up in this area up here on the upper left. But if you've already entered a battle, you can reach it by hitting escape. And that is, you've got a bunch of different options here for how you deal with everything from main to interface, sound, voice chat, whether it's on or not, whether it's push to talk or not, internet radio stuff, and there's one here for special, but that's, I ain't gonna get into that stuff. All of that stuff for right now is okay. Here's one that you need to know. Now, if you have to, just pause the game and take a look at how I have my setup. Because mouse aim is what you want to use, particularly if you don't have a joystick, if you're just playing from the keyboard and mouse. You can play with some of this other stuff. I don't use any full real controls yet myself, but I can talk about a couple of those in a minute. Um, I'm just going to scroll this down and talk a little bit so you can take a look at what I do. And I'll discuss a little bit more about how I fly and what works for me. And that way you can get an idea of what might work for you. Because at first, everything was wrong. And I'll show you how. Simplified controls. If you're going to fly with simplified controls, yeah, I don't care about that. Continue anyway. And resume my test flight. Now you've got this circular thing around the plane. Nothing really seems to work right. I increase my throttle, and the plane just, the torque of the engine moves the plane, so you got to keep it on the runway, and then you can't keep it on the runway without crashing it. Scary stuff. So, when it comes to controls, I want to use mouse aim. Mouse aim is a little bit easier, it's a little smoother, it doesn't give you that fake target thing, and I think you'll just plain enjoy the game a whole lot more, being able to control yourself a little bit better. Now that we've gotten off the ground and we've got enough speed, I'm going to take it off for emergency power, and you'll notice that I'm not trimmed out very good. Now, I fly with my three left fingers, main fingers, on A, Apple, S, sugar, D as in David. And I can roll the plane left with A and roll it right with D. And I can put the elevator and nose up. And of course it's going to spin around because I don't have enough speed to do a loop. If you want to do a loop, give yourself a little speed. Notice the white tips are vaporing. That means you're stalling. And yeah, it doesn't fly very good at 80 miles an hour. It flies better at 100 or better. And again, in realistic, we're not going to overheat the engine. We're just going to putt along here. Now, notice this dot where my cursor's pointing. That's also a flashing dot on that little compass map thing up in the top right. That is a target. That's something we want to destroy. Now, I'm going to use Z as in zebra. I can zoom in on it. I'm also going to hold down the C key, C as in Charlie, and I can move the mouse around without maneuvering the plane. That's something that I use a lot. And what we got there is an enemy truck. So we're supposed to destroy the enemy truck. Okay, now we'll look around with C. It's back there. We got distance on it. Let's go in for the kill. Notice that the circle is leading the cursor around. And I'm going to go in low on it because I got the right fuse on my bombs. Got him, I think. The bombs landed on the other side of the road from it, but they were close enough that I think we killed it. I no longer see the target on my compass, and all I see is a wreck down there on the ground. And we can make sure with the left mouse button, machine gun it to kill any survivors. Don't hit the ground when strafing, and don't hit the object that you're strafing. And yes, you can zoom in on what it is that you're strafing, but just make sure you pull up in time because it'll zoom in on you and you don't want to ram it. So, what have we covered so far? We've got A rolls the plane, D as in David rolls the plane, C will raise the nose, W will push the nose down. And holding down C gives me an opportunity to look around, like see if there's any enemy planes on my tail. Then we're going to start slowing down a little bit. This plane will take off at about 85, 90 miles an hour. It doesn't fly particularly well at that speed. It needs to be going 140, 130. But that's a little fast for landing too. And you'll notice that with it in a straight level flight, 50% power is plenty. Plenty of speed. Now I'm going to bring it over here closer for a landing. Now the one thing I do leave is that this airplane doesn't have flaps in particular. Now, I use F as in Frank for flaps. And if I hit F, it says no flaps down there at the bottom. So I kill the engine, come in at 100 miles an hour. It's too fast. Keep the nose pointed up. Now notice I'm keeping the nose pointed higher than the plane can actually go. There's a reason for that. If I hit B as in brakes, the plane will stop. Now if I'm holding B down, in a lot of planes, they will flip over onto their nose, sometimes all the way over onto their back. You can avoid that with some of them by holding down the S key as well as holding down the brakes. But not all of them work that way. The new F3F naval biplane, it'll nose on over on you and crash. Spitfires nose on over on you and crash. So, in order not to crash, be careful with your brakes and make sure your elevator's up. In other words, that you're giving controls to hold the nose up. That way the elevator authority will fight the tendency of the plane to nose over and give you a bad landing. At the present time, I think we'll go to a battle and see how we do with this airplane. And I've given you a little bit of a brief overview of controls. If I've forgotten something, ask me a question on this channel and I'll get around to it and address it. At the present time, I'm set up right here for air realistic battle. And even though this is the very basic airplane, and it's got bombs on it, which slow it down, let's just see if we can do any good in a random realistic battle. The fastest way to earn points in this game is through arcade battle, and you'll see why we need to earn points. But let's give this a try. It might wind up being too long of a video because this is a big map, a lot of bad guys in it. Basically, we're the blue. We're taking off from this runway. We're going over this direction. We got a friendly air base over here we'd like to keep. There are some enemy tanks that are going to be bothering us. And so we're going to make a run at trying to keep the enemy tanks from bugging us. Now, with this particular airplane, we don't have a whole lot to say about tanks. There's the rest of our squadron. We've got a Buffalo, a Hawk, Hurricane. Okay. If I hit the letter N, I get the layout of both teams. I can't tell what the other side's flying, but you can also see whether or not anybody's carrying bombs. I got bombs and this other guy's got bombs. And he is flying a Swordfish. He's a British dive bomber. A British torpedo bomber, actually, but he can carry bombs. There's nothing on this map that needs to be torpedoed. Now, I steered the plane over with my mouse, but I'm going to tell you right now, when it comes to the actual combat part, I use the ASD a lot because I want the maximum maneuverability I can get out of this airplane. Based on a realistic battle, I'm not going to keep the WEP, the War Emergency Power, on for a long period of time. Even though I can for a while, I don't want to get in the habit of overheating my airplane. This is an air-cooled engine, so it's a little more forgiving. If it does start to overheat, you can just slow down, pull off the throttle and let the air flow over it and it'll cool it off. But with a water-cooled engine, you get a little bit more trick to it. You can develop leaks, you can get shot in the radiator, all kinds of things, and you need to pay attention to those types of things, because if your plane becomes too damaged, then it's not going to fly much longer. See, the battlefield is over there between the blue and the red balloons, and the base is way back there by all that little blue AA that you see. And so it's a long way to try to get back if your plane's damaged, and there's no real other. I mean, you see A out in front of us there, right in the middle of the screen. That's an air base, and right now it's friendly, but you can't repair there. And that kind of thing can get a little bit unnerving sometimes. So I got my little bombs on here, and what's going to wind up happening, if I hit M, I can get a map. Right across from our airfield here, there's a bridge, and there's a bridge over here, and if we blow those bridges, the enemy tanks can't reach our base to take it over. So that's kind of the goal. So when you're new, one of the things to consider is, yeah, you can be aggressive, you can point your cursor right at somebody and go in there guns blazing, hoping to kill them. But that won't necessarily get you all the points you want, because well, it can be tricky. For instance, that SB-2M is a bomber. So is that other one over there. And that means that they started at a bomb position above their airbase and have lost altitude trying to come down. And so they're faster than the fighters. What does that mean? That means that the fighters are going to come in above them because the fighters took off from an airbase, same as us, and they're climbing. So they're approaching the battle zone and gaining altitude. And if you want to have altitude advantage, you need to keep climbing. There's an I-15 at my altitude. He can outturn me, and who knows if he's carrying any other weapons of any kind. That Lag-3, that's got some fierce cannons on it, and plus, just in general, the Russian planes are just hard to shoot down. The I-15s are not hard to shoot down if you can get guns on them, but the Lags, the MiGs, it's like they're made out of diamond plate steel or something. They're just hard to shoot down. Now, I'm going to waste some altitude here because I'm not the best fighter, and we'll draw them down. And besides that, I'm just tired of this Su-2. Getting advantage over our place. Now here's a couple of things to notice. Up in the upper right hand corner I have IAS. That is indicated airspeed. I also have a machine gun counter which shows how much ammunition I have left and how much bombs I got. And it also gives me a fuel count. Now I put extra fuel in my plane, which means it'll handle more sluggish, but at the same time it'll extend my life a little bit. Notice how I looked around to see that guy coming on me. I cannot outturn the guy. And I can't outclimb him, but I might be able to outclimb him and outturn him at the same time. And depending on some other factors, I can certainly outrun him. My little bombs, I don't know. Tiny little bombs on this plane. It's not really what it's intended for. But I need to blow this bridge if I can. Actually hit the bridge. I don't know if I'm going to make it now. Nope. Because my plane's damaged. You might have noticed down in the lower left corner that my plane was damaged. And that ended it for me. Statistics, I didn't do much. I got a few points, I'm not sure what for. I probably hit something. It didn't blow up the bridge and I died once. Statistics, we've shot up quite a bit of their stuff, but there's not very many of us left. There's just two guys on our side left. The Russians are hard to beat, so having the least amount of airplane against them is tricky. The Buffalo went in at high altitude. He's still up there. But what he's doing up there is waiting to be the last one to get killed, I think, because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them left. And this guy is being overwhelmed, and he's getting no help. The Buffalo's way over there by himself. The Hurricane's already shot up quite a bit. Why he's still trying to fight, I'm not sure. I guess that's just because some people just point their plane right into the middle of everything and try to point it at the enemy and shoot them. He didn't lead the target. Now he's going to crash anyway. So down he goes. The next guy's running for home. Best thing this guy can do is run back to the base, get some bullets, and make these guys come out and chase him. Because the base has anti-aircraft fire involved with it. Doesn't look like we accomplished much of anything that time. Right in the middle of the pack, didn't accomplish hardly anything. And some people didn't do anything at all. I don't know if they showed up. The Swordfish didn't make it to any place. He got 0 points. Maybe he didn't get any backing about how to fly. I really don't know. That's a frustrated guy right there. So let's hit escape, return to the hangar. Yeah, we'll let that finish up. So we didn't do hardly anything. We only got 306 points, and that's not terrible for a first time out. Now, here's why you need points. This up here in the top, that's convertible points that I've earned. That's the amount of lions that I've earned that I bought. Some people are not going to spend any money in here, and so they're not going to have that many golden lions past what you're initially given when you start. But here's where you might want to need some. There certainly is a lot of airplanes that I have, and others down here that I don't have yet. And past that, there's a couple of things with the plane itself. For one thing, I've got crew maxed out. And I've qualified it to expert level. I haven't qualified it to ace level because you have to spend actual money to do that. Now, that sticks to what's called this slot. The crew stays in this slot, so whatever other airplane I might put in here in the future, that training converts to that airplane. This crew is that airplane's crew, but say for instance, I have multiple presets. And I bought some of these extra presets. There's the first plane in that first slot. He's got the same accelerated crew, trained crew that this guy's got down here. And I will avoid that without. Now the other thing you deal with as you develop is you start out with a stock plane, but you need to earn the ability on the modification here to carry bombs. You need to earn the better bullets and guns so that you can get more than just default ammunition. You can get universal tracers or stealth attack. And then you need to start getting fuselage repair, wings repair. That's so that if you get shot up and you can make it back to your base or one of the other applicable bases, you can land on that and actually get repaired. You can get your plane fixed, you can get all the ammo reloaded. Oh, and look at this. I had never even noticed that before. But I never got the engine injection on that first airplane, so I guess I'll have to go back and fly it some more and see if I can do anything about that. There's lots of other things about this game that makes it interesting, difficult, challenging, and a whole lot of fun. But getting shot down all the time isn't that much fun. So learn how to fly your plane well and gather your points, develop your crew training, and we'll see you up there. This is Mitch Latcher. Happy holidays to everyone.